Hello everyone, my name is Dasha Shavarina and I will discuss the factors that affect object naming performance in people who had COVID-19. It has been shown that COVID-19 affects a number of cognitive functions, with language being one of them. Almeida and colleagues showed that letter and category fluency, as well as object naming, are connected to certain COVID-19 symptoms, namely headache, oxygen therapy, and loss of taste could predict worse performance on these tasks. The paper by Rofes and colleagues was devoted specifically to language consequences of COVID-19, and they discovered that people who had COVID-19 are not more impaired than a normative sample on fluency tasks. However, age of acquisition and frequency could predict the number of words correct in category fluency, while concreteness and depression scores could predict word count and letter fluency. Object naming is another commonly used neuropsychological assessment, but we currently don't have evidence as to how people who had COVID-19 fare on this task. Therefore, we decided to see whether individuals who recovered from COVID-19 are impaired in naming, as measured by number of words correct on the Boston Naming Test, and also which linguistic, demographic, and symptom factors affect the number of words correct. 84 Castilian Spanish speakers were recruited. All of them had COVID-19. There were roughly the same amount of male and female participants, and a variety of ages and years of education represented. These participants were assessed after hospital dismissal or self-quarantine, and the assessment included a questionnaire to gather demographics and symptoms, the Spanish version of the object naming test, the Boston Naming Test, as well as questionnaires for anxiety and depression and blood tests. And then the data were subject of analyses. Firstly, we retrieved 11 word properties for each item of the BNT. Then a proportion test was used to see whether the proportion of individuals impaired in our sample differs from a hypothesized proportion in the population, and a logistic regression assessed which linguistic, demographic, and symptom factors affect the number of words correct. The proportion test revealed that our proportion, 10.7, was significantly different from the hypothesized proportion in the population, 5%, and naming in our sample is more impaired than what is expected in a normal population. The logistic regression revealed the following predictors, listed in order of decreasing p-value. And to answer our first research question, whether people who had COVID-19 fare differently, we can say that the number of impaired individuals in our sample was twice as high than what is expected in a normative population. And the factors that determine performance, we found that for demographics, years of education, age, and gender are predictors. The symptoms that you see on the screen are predictors. However, we found no linguistic predictors. This could indicate that the impairment is not at the lexical semantic level. However, it may also mean that the impairment is connected to non-linguistic factors, such as a decline in executive function. The demographic factors are expected because age and education do correlate with naming ability, and while gender is generally not reported to correlate, some studies do corroborate this finding. And with regards to the symptom factors, headache and breathing difficulty were already reported to be connected with language decline. And subjective complaints in our study were only a categorical variable, so more inspection is needed to see what the effect is. And anxiety and depression have been also known to affect language function. Thank you very much.